I am a success story not because I've done anything, because I've done nothing worthy of distinction. I am a success story because of what was done for me. My grandmother, Carrie Vine, was born in 1887, and she was not afforded the rights and privileges of education in Berkeley County, a place called Strawberry. My father was born in 1915 in Williamsburg County, a place called Andrews, and his educational affordability went as far as the second grade would take him. My mother was born in 1915, Berkeley County, Strawberry, and she was only afforded education to the 7th grade because that was the law at that time. And she so desperately wanted to become a teacher. That was her dream, to become a teacher. But because of the law that she could go no further than the 7th grade, her dream did not come true. However, she wanted her dream of becoming a teacher structured into reality by means of her son. And often when I sat at my mother's knee, she said, "You're going to be a teacher. You are going to be a teacher." We would go to church, visit family members in the neighborhood. I still hear her bragging, "My son is going to be a teacher. My son is going to be a teacher." And then came Brown versus Board of Education in 1954. Integration reached Berkeley County in 1970. Berkeley training, where the minority students went, and Berkeley High, where the white students went. And that was the first time in our history as black and white students that we sat together. And it was a culture shock for both groups. Culture shock. But nonetheless, my mother, "You're going to be a teacher." The time came to take the SAT. And I made so low. And you know you're given 100 points by the mere virtue of signing your name. 100 points, but so low. So my mother asked the guidance counselor, could he take it again? I took it the second time. And I made less the second time. And of course, you could send up to 3 colleges without fees. And my mother scraped some dollars and pennies together to send to as many colleges as possible. And of course, there was a distrust of this first year of integration of a black mother and a white guidance counselor. And my mother says, "Send the scores." "Well, Miss Darby, he needs to go to vocational school because he doesn't read too well and he doesn't write too well, and he needs to go to vocational school." And there's nothing wrong with vocational work. And not to be arrogant or supercilious, but I built my own home. But my mother said, "My son is going to be a teacher." And she said, "Send the scores, send the scores." College of Charleston, denied. The Citadel, denied. Baptist College, now Charleston Southern University, denied. Furman, denied. Presbyterian, denied. Newberry, denied. Not only that, South Carolina State, denied. Claflin College, now Claflin University, denied. Benedict, denied. Voorhees, denied. Allen University, denied. One college, and one college alone, gave me the opportunity, and that was Morris College out of Sumter, South Carolina. And I can understand well, I don't hold anything against it because I couldn't read, I couldn't write. But what Morris College did for me, that the other colleges would not do. And prior to my getting there, I had great teachers. Oh, I had great teachers. I was taught by Dr. Nancy Richardson. I mean, yes. And also Dr. Rubin and many other great teachers. And what Morris College did for Henry Darby was to take me back to the 8th grade and brought me up to snuff. Pardon the vernacular, snuff. But nonetheless, here I was as a high school student, of which I was not successful on a simplistic, scholastic aptitude test known as the SAT When I graduated Morris College, I made an A on the National Teachers Examination. That is a success story in terms of what was done for me. And then I took a teaching job at Burke High School for about 10 years. And I was asked to run for county council. I said, no, that's just not my style. I want to be a teacher. Again, I was asked, no. My students heard, Mr. Darby, take advantage of the opportunity. I will not name the Democratic Party, which I belong to, but I got no support. None. Absolutely none. I was not their choice, its choice. And my students said in substance, if not in fact, Mr. Darby, we got you. And those students licked envelopes, stamps, raised money. They built a transportation network, took people to the polls and whatnot, until I became a member of Charleston County Council. And I said to myself, if it weren't for Morris College, I would not be a teacher. If I were not a teacher, I would not be on Charleston County Council. Now, that's not a complete Aristotelian syllogism, but that is a truth nonetheless. And from there, I went to Clark Atlanta University, where I was taught by Dr. Margaret Riley. I went to Emory University, where I was taught by one of the nation's foremost historian, Dr. Dan Carter. And I attended the Citadel, where I procured 2 degrees, where I was taught by Dr. Kent Murray, as well as a Dr. LaBorde Brown. But just to go back in the meanwhile, before graduation, at my freshman year, which was quite successful, I was going to summer school. And I was on the first floor, and they used to call me Hank because of Henry, Hank. Someone would say, Hank, there's a phone call, pay a phone. I went there. It was my mother. She said 3 words, Mr. Strotterman, Dr. Clark. She said, Pumpkin, come home. Mama, Pumpkin, come home. Immediately went to my room, packed a few things I had, told my friends, tell the teachers I have to go. Caught the Greyhound bus, went back home, saw my mother, and she said, I have cancer, and I'm dying. And she had her breast removed, and I took care of my mother for an entire year. And my mother taught me well because as a 6, 7, 8, 9-year-old kid, she taught me how to cook, how to clean, how to sew, how to iron, and take care of others. And then that awful day came October 6th of 1972. My mother said to me, son, I was good to you. And a few seconds later, she looked through this window of ours, and she said, Lord, you waited so long. And there was a stillness in her body. And I closed her eyes. And then I thought about the words she said, son, I was good to you. Because I recalled as a young boy, 5, 6, and 7, she would walk Highway 52 picking up bottles and cans to sell. And she would tell me, son, I'm doing this to save money so you can go to college. I'm doing this to go to college, son. With no shame, picking up bottles and cans to make ends meet to sell for her son to go to college. But the sadness of it all, just as Moses dreamt about the promised land, just as Apostle Paul dreamt about taking the gospel to Spain, just as Abraham Lincoln thought about uniting the North and the South, just as Woodrow Wilson dreamt about the League of Nations, and just as Dr. King dreamt about Congress passing the Open Housing Act of 1968, they all died before their dreams came true. And so was the case of my mother. She died before she saw her son to become a teacher, even though her dream was structured into reality. But that situation where she said, I was good to you. And there was another lesson I'd like to share with you, and I'm going to hurry along here. It was in the kitchen. And someone had given my mother some food stamp. I am 10 years old. I'm just 10 years old. By the shoulder, she pulls me to her. She was sitting down, and she took out the food stamp and tore it up in my face. And she said these words I'll never forget. She says, "Boy, you're going to learn to stand on your own 2 feet." I'm 10 years old. "Boy, you're going to learn to stand on your own 2 feet." And she must have had some type of clairvoyance because, my father died, and my father did to me what most men don't do to their sons. You don't die on your son's birthday at 3 years old. And I asked my mother why I never had a birthday party. I know she was very religious. She said, "That day is reserved for my husband." I've never had a birthday party. My grandmother left me or us when I was 7. So it was just me and my mom. But learn to stand on your 2 feet. And as a result, when I became the principal of North Charleston High School, never had I seen such abstract, metaphysical poverty among students and parents. And I used to dig deep in my pockets, not to be ostentatious or superstitious. I would dig deep and pay for parents' rent, water bill, and light bill. And the word got around, "Mr. Darby will pay your bill. Mr. Darby will pay your bill." I'm digging deep in my pocket, deep, to the point I started digging into my emergency funds and my children's savings. And something said, I can't continue doing this. I just can't. So one day, 2 students, females, come to school late. I'm giving them a tongue lash because when they need a hug, I'll hug them. When they need to be yelled at, I'll yell at them. Get yourselves in here. Get into the school here. Every day you're coming late. And my parent advocate, Miss Elizabeth Bowens, came to me and said, "Mr. Darby, they are sleeping under a bridge." I felt so small. These kids are at least coming to school, and I'm yelling at them. I got to find someplace for these kids to stay. So common sense said, since you can't say no to those in need, common sense dictated, get another job. So the job was Walmart because of its 3rd shift 3 miles away. And I didn't think Walmart was going to hire me. And I did my best. I tried to keep it surreptitiously. I tried to keep it esoterically. I tried to keep it assiduously. But the first night that I went to Walmart to work from 11 to 7, here's one of my students getting off in front of everybody. "Hey, y'all, Mr. Darby working at Walmart." I know her name could not have been Victoria because she did not keep a secret. And my executive director, because the word got out with the newspaper, he would say, "Take the interview." "I don't take the interview, Mr. Darby." No, that's not me. A couple of days later, he mentioned it again. I said, this man is serious because I follow leadership. That's what I do. So I allowed for the interview, and it went nationwide. It went international. We received dollars from Germany, Australia, and this country sent North Charleston High School nearly $400,000. Black, white, Republican, Democrats, they really helped us out in terms of that. And it wasn't easy working at Walmart from 11 to 7, but I had a purpose. Because if you were to take an objective analysis and a creative appraisal of learn to stand on your own 2 feet, it's not just about standing on your own 2 feet for you. It's also about standing on your own 2 feet for others. And my mother trained and taught me well, to the point that it was bestowed upon me by Governor McMaster's, the Order of the Palmetto, which I really did not expect. I was not going to really accept it, but here comes Mr. Strotterman. Here comes Dr. Cloud. Well, you need to accept it. You need to accept it. And Governor Master came to North Charleston High School and did a wonderful job in terms of his presentation. What's the moral of the story? I don't know. But one of those times, going across to the dump, there was a place called Mixon Avenue where African Americans were not allowed to cross. It was about a mile down the road because my mother heard where the whites were destroyed with trash and whatnot. And I am in tow. And she took me with her. I'm 6, 7 years old. And there was this cloth because she was getting other things. She said, boy, get the cloth. Mama, he gooey. Get the cloth, boy. Mama, he's stinking. Get the cloth, boy. Mama, he's stinking. My mother put her hand on all that muck and mire, pulled the cloth out, took it home in the backyard where she used to make soap, and she boiled the cloth. And during that time, parents were very wise. They would make clothes for you big enough so you can grow into it so they can save money. And my mother got this cloth of the piece of the dump and made this shirt for me, whereby I wore to school from the 8th through the 11th grade 2 to 3 times a week because she was saving money to help her child get to college. And again, I can never forget because this reminds me of my struggles and remind me of my mother. And again, what's the moral of the story? If I can help somebody as I pass along, if I can cheer somebody with a word or song, if I can show somebody he's traveling wrong, then my living will not be in vain. And because of my mother wanted me to have a need to help others, and Morris College was the vehicle, when the day comes that I can't help somebody, when the day comes that I can't help others, I'm going to look toward heaven and say, swing low, sweet chariot, come on and carry me home. Thank you all so very much.